Okay, welcome to Grand Vision of Love. This is a training with me. My name is Avani. You probably know me or have interacted with me in some way. But this is grand vision of love, and creating your grand vision of love is like the number one place I start with women who are looking for their partner, looking for their soulmate. This is the place to start because this is what worked for me, and I'm here to share that with you. The intention here is to get clear and activated by your vision, turned on, like really juicy, really filled up by what it is that you want in your love life, that manifesting the partner of your dreams, the relationship of your dreams. Like, we're getting right into it. We're getting to work so that you feel grounded and confident. Like, you're not compromising. You're not like, okay, whatever happens, no, we're getting clear, we're getting excited, we're getting sure about what we want so that the manifestation of the partner of your dreams is yours. Okay. And so this is great. Honestly, this exercise is really great no matter where you are in the process. Let's say you are already dating, or you're so worried and scared about dating that you're like, I don't even know where to start. This is where we start. In fact, I don't care how long you've been dating. If you don't have this, like, you won't know what you're looking for. So like, you go on dates and you don't know whether this person's actually it or not. And then you've wasted all this time, like months go by. Well, does this person want a baby? Because I really want kids, and I really don't want kids. And this person is like, ready to get married tomorrow. Like, we eliminate the guesswork. Okay. That's the intention of this training. Okay, so like I mentioned, the transformation that we are looking for from this training for you is to get kind of the basics of what I'm talking about when I talk about what the grand vision of love is, and then you'll have some homework. But essentially what we're really doing here, get clear, feel excited. So you're like, oh, this man's for me. And when you see him, when you meet him, you're like feeling it, okay? Expand in your possibilities for what's available in your love life, in your sex life, overall life. So when we start to create this grand vision of love, which basically is going to look something like a Google Doc or something that either you start working on your own, or you and I are working together in a one-on-one or group setting, depending on how you want to take it forward. But essentially, it's like we want to get clear out of the head onto paper and then into the body. Okay. And that you walk away with like a concrete living, breathing vision of it. So you can, or at least the start of it. Maybe that's where you start. And then, if you need more support, like, we'll connect more. Okay, but that's the intention of this training, but to give you the basics of what that looks like. Okay. So like I said, in this training, I want to start with a visualization. I'm going to have a poem that hopefully will like open your mind. We will connect with your guides. We'll activate the space for that beautiful sort of like God source, like guidance when it comes to your partner and what you're creating with your soulmate. We'll have a little teaching, and then I will share with you your homework and inquiry. So it says 20 minutes. We'll see how quickly I can do this. All right. Just want to start with a quick introduction of myself, and everything I'm sharing with you is something I have done myself and manifested my dream partner, dream relationship. This right here is my family right now. This is my partner. This is my toddler. We live in Mexico. This is from our house. We got married. Let's see, I was engaged to a guy about 12 years ago, and it didn't work out. And I ended up calling off the engagement a month before the actual wedding. And it was like, oh my God, I cannot believe this is where I ended up, And from there on out, I was like determined to figure out like how this whole relationship stuff works. So I have been studying this for over 12, 15 years now, because I was in transformation work before I started going into the romance part. And so I am a relationship expert, a dating expert, and also an energy healer. So like you can see in this corner here, I'm an energy healer as well, sound healing and energy healing. And I feel like the trifecta of energy healing, which is like opening your heart, and releasing anything that's in the way of you knowing, feeling 100% being settled and grounded that you will find the man and he will come in attracted and magnetized into your life, like with ease and grace and all of that. Like we need to kind of clear if there's any old residue, which for the most part we all have, just because of conditioning, because of how we grew up, what we saw our parents doing, how we've seen relationships go, and previous heartbreaks or whatever. And some of it is subconscious and we don't even know, which is where I think energy healing is so powerful, because it just kind of will let me tune in into things that we're not even like consciously thinking about. Okay. And then, yeah, like I live currently in Mexico, but I am from the US and I was born in India. My husband is Dutch, actually. And I used to work in corporate. I used to be in the Bay Area. I used to work in data strategy. My analytical brain was always on, but like I was a problem solver, but couldn't figure out relationships. And clearly I went in and it was not, it's taken a long time to really get all the pieces together, and you get to benefit from my wisdom and study and knowledge and all of it. And I put this picture, this is my house right now, which is 100% paid off. And it's a part of my manifestation with my partner. And so you get to have it all, right? And yeah, that's what I want to make. That's what I want to show. Not that I ever thought I would live in such a big house, but it's incredible. It's like more than what I ever thought I would have, right? Like all of this. So I just share this because I went from a broken engagement to here and doing my soul's work, which is talking to you and sharing with you this whole journey of how romantic relationships work and how pleasure and more sensuality, more intimacy, how does all that work? Okay. All right, let's go into the poem and the visualization part. So this is the part where if you're listening to this while you're doing something else, maybe you just listen to it and come back to it later. But for now, make sure you're doing it in a safe way. When you're ready to do it, like close your eyes and we're gonna drop in and I'm gonna call in. I'm gonna set up the sort of the spiritual space, if you may. Okay, so let's just connect with our body, because this whole thing is about your body. Romance is everything to do with the body. Okay, and what happens a lot is that because we are so analytical, smart, ambitious women, and we're so, driven, that we are in our heads a lot when everything about what you really want in life comes down to the body, the heart, the soul, the womb, the pleasure, right? So this is the start, like to actually just feel your body. So feel your feet on the floor. Taking a couple of deep breaths. And maybe in this process, you might yawn or burp. That's like a very normal part because we're releasing. Keep your focus on the sensation on the bottom of your feet. We are one with our source. Source ground is the sacred heart of new earth in the fifth dimension. Open and clear all dimensions, 5 to 15, 0 through 5 and beyond. Calling in the sacred soul monad, higher self, I am presence of the woman listening to this recording and myself into the space. Just allowing all parts of yourself to come back into this moment right now. Maybe you left it, any of your energy back at work, or in the last interaction you had with maybe an adult or a kid or wherever. Calling all parts of you back right here and now. You are safe, you are held, and this is fun. We're going to allow ourselves to enjoy this process. So from here, I'm going to read this poem. And as I'm reading, just make a note. If there's anything that stood out, keep tuning into your body. So if anywhere it was like, ooh, I felt a body sensation, just notice. So this is The Invitation by Araya Mountain Dreamer. It doesn't interest me what you do for a living. I want to know what you ache for. And if you dare to dream of meeting your heart's longing. It doesn't interest me how old you are. I want to know if you will risk looking like a fool for love and for your dream, for the adventure of being alive. It doesn't interest me what planets are squaring your moon. I want to know if you have been touched, if you have touched the center of your own sorrow, and if you have been opened by life's betrayals or have become shriveled and closed from the fear of further pain. I want to know if you can sit with pain, mine or your own, without moving to hide it or fade it or fix it. I want to know if you can be with joy, mine or your own, if you can dance with the wildness and let the ecstasy fill you to the tips of your fingers and toes without cautioning us to be careful, be realistic, or remember the limitations of being human. It doesn't interest me if the story you're telling me is true. I want to know if you can disappoint another to be true to yourself, if you can bear the accusation of betrayal and not betray your own soul. If you can be faithless and therefore trustworthy. I want to know if you can see beauty even when it is not pretty every day. If you can source your own life from its presence. I want to know if you can live with failure, yours and mine, and still stand at the edge of the lake and shout to the silver of the moon, yes. It doesn't interest me to know where you live or how much money you have. I want to know if you can get up after the night of grief and despair, weary and bruised to the bone, and do what needs to be done to feed the children. It doesn't interest me who you know or how you came to be. I want to know if you will stand in the center of the fire with me and not shrink back. It doesn't interest me where or what or with whom you have studied. I want to know what sustains you from the inside when all else falls away. I want to know if you can be alone with yourself and if you truly like the company you keep in the empty moments. Let the words sink in. Allow yourself to feel them penetrate you. If you need to, actually, I recommend that you pause the recording and just journal what's coming through, how you felt. If you had any body sensations, please go ahead and do that now. Okay. Well, I have to tell you, I have listened to that poem many times. We actually had that and I heard it and I had goosebumps and spots and I was like, I've heard this before, but it's like, it's really what we crave underneath the external that we usually seek in a partner, right? Or external things that we seek in our lives. And so, yeah, and feel free to share with me what it is that stood out from this. Okay, let's move on to the next part, which is the teaching. And so, yeah, this is what we're creating. We are creating what it is that you want. What do you want? What is it that you are really, really wanting? And so you can do this as we go. You just pull up a Google Doc and start writing what it is that you want. Okay, like what kind of a guy? I would start with all the basics, like details. By the way, I'm going to share a couple examples. I'm going to share my own example, and I'm going to share from a client, actually two clients who did this work with me. And I feel like one of the things is like, it is so powerful to get so clear because you will actually end up manifesting exactly that, right? Um, and like I'll tell you, I did this work and I also did a visualization of what I wanted. And I didn't even know, right? When I was like, really, I wanted to get married, I wanted to have kids, and I wanted to, like to me, when I created this vision board, I just wanted to get married and I put a picture on there of a wedding on a beach. Now, when I put that picture, I wasn't conscious of the fact that, oh, that's what I'm putting. I just wanted a beach and ended up getting married on the beach. Okay. So, usually I'm going through the bullets now. Yeah, let's get specific. Okay. Let's get specific. I'm going to show you examples. And it's not about expecting perfection from him or the universe or yourself, but it's like really getting clear. Like, what are my non-negotiables? What is stuff that I'm like absolutely not willing to have? Like if you want to have kids, for example, and the person that you're looking for and they say they don't want kids, like that person's not a match, right? Like we're just being very neutral in that way too. And that way we're not wasting anybody's time. Or vice versa. If you're like, I don't want any kids or I don't want any more kids, be very clear, right? What you're okay with, what you're not okay with. Okay. Usually when I say, hey, what do you want? Women are like, I don't know. This is what I don't want. Usually that's the first thing. And sometimes it's like, I don't want this because this is what I had in my ex, or this is what I've seen happen before. Okay, great. No problem. When you have like, I don't want this, I don't want that, you want to actually flip it on its head and be like, what is it that you actually want? Okay. Like, I don't want someone who's like, stingy or doesn't have a good job. I want someone who doesn't have a good job. Like, I don't want someone who doesn't have a good job or doesn't have a stable income. Okay, well, so then flip it on its head. What I want, because that language is way more powerful. What I want is someone who has a stable job, who loves his job, who's like growing in his job, who's ambitious. Like, you see how that's like really one step deeper than I want someone who doesn't have a job, right? Because like a lot of times I'll hear, oh, I've had to support a guy in the past. And it's like, well, we're just not gonna go there. Like, we're just not, that's why it's good to get clear on what it is that you want. Oh yeah, that's another way. You can take parts of your previous relationships or relationships you've seen and you can incorporate those, right? So like if you have a friend and she has a girlfriend or a boyfriend and they're like really great in their communication and it's lovely how, she can ask him to do house chores and he does it. And then the other thing we want to start to incorporate is the feeling. Like, how do you want to feel when you're with this person? Okay. And so we're going to do some work on that. Okay. But I want you to get like, because it's not about a checklist, because I have made checklists before. Okay. And that's why this grand vision of love, it's more the vision. And I wanted this to be a living, breathing document, not just like, oh, I just create it and it's gone. It has to, and what's more important than the document is just to help you get your thoughts out. What's more important is like just becoming so crystal clear about the kind of person that you want that it's like no doubts, right? Like it's like you're just not tolerating shit. Because a lot of the times we've just tolerated things when we really don't want them, right? So we're just moving away from that. If he was already here, how would it feel like in your life? Like, oh, how would you be feeling? Oh, I would feel so relieved. I would feel so excited about my future. I would feel so excited about like, oh, we're gonna be having kids, like we get to plan all these things, like, and this is why I also say that it goes beyond the checklist because like what I have with my partner right now is got nothing, like it's like nothing what I thought I wanted, right? Because before, when I was creating the checklist, a lot of it was from shoulds that other people expected me to do, right? Like, oh, he should have a good job. And I did. My ex-fiance had a really good job. He was even supporting us. But that emotional connection was not there, right? Like, I didn't feel like he was seeing me fully. I didn't feel like he understood me, like he didn't get all parts of me. By the way, you can, as I'm saying all this and you like that, just write it down. Oh, someone who fully sees my gifts and fully sees my intuition or whatever it is, right? Like that I have all these varied interests and who gets like my love for my daughter or who gets how much it means to me that I have kids, like put all of that. Okay, incorporate all aspects of life, kids, finances, type of lifestyle you want to be living, where you want to be living. Yeah, and then, yeah, so like I said, that part and language is key. Write it in present tense and like, I'll show you examples of it, okay? Not theoretical, like it would be great if he, I don't know, like that, right? Like we're not using that kind of language. Okay, this was my grand vision of love. And as you can see, this is a picture from when I had it written out and I put it up on my wall, on my, it's like closet. Okay, so just look at the purple part, okay? I was like clear, I want a serious long-term relationship, someone who was committed, who just knew that this is what I want. She is it. By the way, my husband was a complete playboy. And because I was so grounded in this vision, he literally within 20, like he went from being a playboy 24 hours ago to when he met, he was in. He was in because I was so sure, so clear. actually, like, I met him through a girl he was playing with, right? Who happened to be an acquaintance. And I was like, yeah, you're not my guy, right? I was so clear, but he was so drawn. He was like, oh. And my friend told him, she wants a serious relationship. She wants someone who's committed. He was in. He has not left. Literally from that moment, he was so in. I have broken up with him many times. I broke up with him many times after that because I couldn't actually handle that. And I had to work through a lot of my own wounding. But he was in, right? So you get to have someone who knows that you are it. And there's an energy that gets almost invoked in you when you're so clear about what you want, right? And that energy is magnetic. Like people are like, ooh, I want more of that. Okay. So, I have all these, like someone who is kind and respectful and loving and caring. And then my last one, sorry, there's somewhere in there. Actually, I think I have a better one here. Oh yeah. So this last one I have over here is I wanted someone Indian. And those are great also to look at, right? Like if you want a certain type of a person, like he has to have certain interests. That's a little different. We'll come to that in a second. But my coach was like, why do you want someone who's Indian? And I was like, what? I had never imagined a world where I wouldn't be with an Indian guy. And And I had to think about it for a minute, right? Because I was with an Indian guy, but there were things that in that relationship that were actually not there. And she had me question. She's like, "What about an Indian guy is so important to you?" So as you're writing this grand vision of love, and you see that you have something like this, you want to start asking yourself the question, like, what is so important? And when she asked me that question, it was like, you know what? I think I want that because I want someone who is family oriented. I want someone, and so I think she went ahead and wrote that in. Someone who was like who, because I had this story at the time that, like Indian people are like all family oriented and like, white people and other cultures and whatnot. They're not. And I was so wrong about all of that only to realize it later, right? Like my husband is way more like his family is like so connected and so nice to each other and open-minded, even more so than some of the Indian families I know. And it like kind of shattered this like kind of image that I had of what I thought was like how things should look, right? And so it's like good to notice. I was like, oh my God, thank God I wasn't like mega stuck on it because I was like, yeah, white people don't. And I had met people like that. So it's not to say that it's not true, but it's like not everybody's like that, right? So if we're generalizing, over sort of, yeah, simplifying, over generalizing, really. Like we want to look at that. Okay, so keep moving, right? I wanted romance. I wanted someone. I was actually okay, we'll talk about that in a second, non-negotiables, but like happy, fun, ease, excited, inspires me. Somebody who was inspiring me, someone who was supporting me, and someone who I was just so proud of, right? Um, I didn't have anything about finances because I thought Indian actually covered finances, so I probably should have put that in here. Because it's everything matters. My husband and I have had this like journey of finances together, and maybe that was our part of our evolution, but like I didn't have that forefront because like at the time I was making money and I was like, whatever. So I never thought about that part. So yeah, you make sure you put everything in there. Now, again, like I said, we're not expecting perfection. We're really wanting to just make sure we're not settling for something that's like, not, that's actually really important. The other part of it that's important to remember is that, some of it we think are non-negotiables, but really are not, right? And some things that we think are negotiable are really not negotiables. So we got to get clear about the non-negotiables and the negotiables. Like for me, one of the things I noticed like was a non-negotiable was somebody who was interested in growing and developing, because I was that kind of person who was interested in growing and developing. And my partner, the reason my ex fiance and I broke up was because he wasn't interested in growing and developing. He was very fixed in his ideas, and that didn't work for me. So I would put that in, right? Like it was a complete non-negotiable for me. And the other thing that was non-negotiable was somebody who was like wanting to grow and develop in the area of sex, who had already done work in the area of sex. And my partner was all of that, right? Like my husband is all of that, who was, and there was a few other things. Is there anything else? Yeah, like emotionally connected, like someone who was like connected with his own emotions. Okay. And then this is my client. Okay, this is from my client. Yeah, you can see her number one thing is someone who is willing to grow and grow with me, someone who is willing to invest in himself. Like, what else? I think we were editing some of this. That's why we have this yellow and stuff like that. So yeah, and when I work with clients one-on-one, and if we're working together, I will ask you questions like, someone who can hold space when I'm vulnerable. What does that mean? And so you can also go back to that recording, sorry, the part where we said the story, right? Like, and that's that when I read that poem, not the story, poem, invitation, I was like, oh my God, this is what I want, right? And so I wanted someone who was open to growth and development and was open to connecting with his own deepest, darkest selves. Like when I met my husband, he had done work, like deep work on himself or on like his addictions and like so much deep stuff. Like he was the first thing that came out of his mouth, which is why I was in it, even though he wasn't Indian. And I kind of wanted that. He drew me in because he was so emotionally connected with himself. Like that was such a value for me. Okay. And so, yeah, like someone who takes care of himself, that we can have a fun time, like, add all of that in. So, pause this recording if you want to look at it. And then, yeah, you also want to go into the part I want to highlight here is this right here in the middle. Okay. I feel secure and safe and comforted and strong and beautiful. Like I like that. She had that. So like writing how you want to feel. Okay. And then by the way, we get to activate this entire creation. It's not just a dead Word document. Okay. And then the other part, I think this was, I was giving her some coaching about what it is that she wanted, and we talked about it. And he is self-aware, growing, and knows his inner compass. Like it is super important. Like that was important to her. And so we kind of edited some of that wording. Okay, so yeah, feel free to read this, take ideas from this. Yeah, and things to think about, okay? What would make my life more pleasurable? You get to add it all, right? Like, I love the idea that, my husband and I have so many common interests. Um, and we didn't know about all of them, but like over time, like we've come to realize, like we think very similarly on certain things, which I wouldn't have expected. But that, yeah, like, so what is it that you want? Like him and I both had this dream to travel and have houses everywhere in the world, and we kind of do now, right? Okay, so write that in as well. If you were feeling clear, what would you know for certain? What would you know about this person? What would you know about your life? How would you know that this is the person? Okay. Um, yeah, like what parts feel intentional and what parts feel like you should. Okay. So now if you've written all of it, just go back and look at it again from these questions of like more pleasure. What would that inner knowing look like? And what would it like feel like? Like you want to actually start to create that image. And then what is a should, right? Like I should, like even starting with like I should have a partner. It's like, really? Like, why? Why would you want it? Right? Like, how would life be more pleasurable if you wanted it? Now, I want a partner who's this way. And it's like, but because my mother wants it, right? Or I will get the approval from my family, like that. So we want to look at all of that. Okay, well, now it's time to create. So, okay, so stop sharing. But this is basically um, the starting point, okay? And the other thing I want to tell you is like from here, okay, there's actual like, ways in which you can identify whether or not this person's actually a match or not, right? And it doesn't have to be like an interview. Like, please, let's not make this an interview. It can be pleasurable. It can be fun. And that's what I guide women through when I do one-on-one coaching, and maybe I'll do another training on that. But yeah, so I hope this is helpful to open your mind and start to get in this process of getting very clear for yourself as to what it is that you want when it comes to your grand vision of love, that partner, that soulmate who's here for you, who's committed, none of this emotionally unavailable people, and just like going for what you really want. Like, this is the time, this is for you. Okay, well, there is more, like, let's connect in the DMs or wherever it is that we're connecting. And yeah, good. Have a great time writing and creating. We're actually creating this person, this life to come into your world. So, okay, thank you very much.